محمد وآل محمد صلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. عن فاطمة الزهراء عليه السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله أنها قالت: دخل علي أبي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله في بعض الأيام فقال: السلام عليك يا فاطمة. فقلت: وعليك السلام. قال: إني أجد في بدني ضعفا. فقلت له: أعيذك بالله يا أبتاه من الضعف. فقال: يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به. فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به، وصرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلأله كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله. اللهم صل على محمد وآله. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن عليه السلام قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أماه. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال: يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت: نعم، إن جدك تحت الكساء. فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جدا يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوضي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معه تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين عليه السلام قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أماه. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال لي: يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت: نعم، إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جدا، السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله، أتأذن لي أن نكون معكما تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال: السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال: يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عمي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت: نعم، ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن نكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال له: وعليك السلام يا أخي ويا وصي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن نكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بضعتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ بي رسول الله بطرفي الكساء وأومأ بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وحامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم، أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم، إنهم مني وأنا منهم، فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد. فقال الله عز وجل يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي، إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضية ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل يا رب ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. اللهم صل على فقال جبرائيل يا رب أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض لأكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله نعم قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيا ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم، وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فقال لي أبي إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل. فقال علي لأبي يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي عليه السلام إذا والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال أبي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض، وفي جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا، وفيهم مهموم إلا وفرج الله هما، ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غما، ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي عليه السلام: إذا والله فزنا وسعدنا، وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي، يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على فاتحة.
السلام والسلام عليك يا رسول الله محمد وآل محمد صلوات. اپنی قسمت آزما کر دیکھنا، تم مزہ خانہ سجا کر دیکھنا. اپنی قسمت آزما کر دیکھنا، تم مزہ خانہ سجا کر دیکھنا. خود منافق کا پتہ چل جائے گا، خود منافق کا پتہ چل جائے گا. نعرہ حیدر لگا کر دیکھنا، یا علی تم مزہ خانہ سجا کر دیکھنا. ہو اگر جنت زمیں پر دیکھنی، ہو اگر جنت زمیں پر دیکھنی، کربلا ایک بار جا کر دیکھنا. تم مزہ خانہ سجا کر دیکھنا. اپنی قسمت آزما کر دیکھنا، تم مزہ خانہ سجا کر دیکھنا. تم کو زہرا کی دعا مل جائے گی، تم کو زہرا کی دعا مل جائے گی. پرچم غازی اٹھا کر دیکھنا، تم مزہ خانہ سجا کر دیکھنا. اپنی قسمت آزما کر دیکھنا، تم مزہ خانہ سجا کر دیکھنا. خوشبوئے رومال زہرا چاہیے، خوشبوئے رومال زہرا چاہیے. عشق مجلس میں بہا کر دیکھنا، تم مزہ خانہ سجا کر دیکھنا. اپنی قسمت آزما کر دیکھنا، تم مزہ خانہ سجا کر دیکھنا. وہ تو پھر مولا علی ہے حشر میں، वो तो फिर मौला अली है हश्र में, मर्तबा कंबर का आकर देखना, तुम मज़ा खाना सजा कर देखना, अपनी किस्मत आज़मा कर देखना, तुम मज़ा खाना सजा कर देखना। मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सलवात।
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Sayyid Hasan Rizvi, respected elders, dearest brothers and sisters in Iman, Assalamu alaikum, Jameel wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. For the love of our fifth holy Imam, Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Surah Fatiha is requested for all marhumin listed on the screen, as well as all other marhumin. Surah Mubarak al-Fatiha. Dua Shfa Maris is requested for all those in need here and elsewhere, as well as those listed on the screen. Let us recite together. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. أَمَّن يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ 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 أَمَّن يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ. Ya Allah. A reminder that the Burial Assistance Program, open enrollment, is currently underway. All existing members are requested to pay their 2024 fees during this period. Those interested in joining the program are also encouraged to do so before the January 31st deadline. Additionally, anyone who turned 21 in the year 2023 will need to have their own membership, as they'll no longer be covered under their parents' membership. For any questions regarding membership or the Burial Assistance Program in general, please reach out to either Brother Raza Dunji or Brother Sibtain Yusuf Ali, who will be available after tonight's program to address any inquiries. HIC Family Support Services and Shield Families will inshallah be hosting a marriage workshop the weekend of January 27th and 28th. Explore crucial topics such as gender roles, the Islamic perspective on marriage, extended family relationships, and keys to successful partnership. Led by Sheikh Sadi and Ustada Zahra Hamka, this event promises to equip you with knowledge and confidence to enrich your relationships. Please register via the QR code on the screen or the link provided via WhatsApp and weekly newsletter. Please note the deadline to register for this workshop is Sunday, January 21st. At this time, let us invite Sayyid Hasan Rizvi to please come forward for tonight's Majlis. By Muhammad wa Muhammad salawat.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين بالقاسم المصطفى محمد. ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الأولين والآخرين إلى قيام يوم الدين أما بعد صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. Mu'mineen, mu'minat, brothers and sisters in Islam and Iman, Salamun alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I want to begin by wishing you all a Rajab Mubarak, and it's on this first night of Rajab that we come together and celebrate the Wiladat anniversary of our fifth holy Imam, Imam Muhammad ibn Ali al-Baqir al-Ulum al-Nabiyyin alayhi salatu was-salam. Most of us know that this title, Al-Baqir, comes from this idea, Baqara, to open something up, right? He's given this title, Al-Baqir, because he's the one that has opened up these paths to knowledge, right, to ilm. When we think about how the Imam, or any person, any institution, wanting to open up and increase the amount of ilm or knowledge for somebody or for a community or for a center or a school, there's this idea that, well, more ilm is going to come from more ta'aleem, meaning more education. You're going to have more books, more instructors, maybe more events, workshops, things like that. Right? So there's this natural relationship where we're assuming that the Imam, or again, anybody else that wants to increase knowledge and open up the gates or doors for more knowledge, there's some other increase that has to happen too. Right? You want to increase more knowledge and something else has to open up, something else has to increase as well too. One thing that I'd like to open up for tonight is that there are certain pathways, certain doors, and certain experiences that will not open up until something else right before it is closed and shut first. It's not always about things increasing and opening and then, boom, we just have more knowledge and more information. Sometimes there's a muqaddamah and a prerequisite that something else before that door, one door needs to close before another door can open up. Some sort of experience or idea or a concept needs to be cut away or removed before we go on and learn and increase ourselves in knowledge. And I want to, use this idea of al-Baqir as well too. Right? Al-Baqir is not simply just opening something up. Al-Baqir, more precisely, we're coming from the verb baqara, is not just about opening things up. It's about cleaving. Right? Cleaving is a bit different. When you're splitting something, the idea of splitting something opening and making that hole or that opening or that gap means something else has to be pushed aside first, right? If you're trying to make way for something, that means that there's something in the way first. You push those out of the way, and then you have space to move forward, right? That's the idea. So what we want to go through tonight, inshallah, is just some historical examples during the life of the Imam about how certain things needed to have been closed before the path to the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam was open to the general Muslimin. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. One of the biggest obstacles for the general Muslims around that time to having this love, adoration, and connection with the Ahlul Bayt was the fact that people weren't just generally disconnected from the Ahlul Bayt because they didn't want to go to them. But there was a culture set up from the time of Muawiyah up throughout almost all of the Umayyads, that the Ahlul Bayt were people to be despised. Na'udhu billah. You're supposed to keep your distance from them. And this practice was initiated by what we famously know as the cursing that was done of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Something as simple as this initial blockade or obstacle that was set up by Muawiyah was enough for the general Muslim public, especially the people in Sham, as we remember from the whole episode of Karbala, right, after what happened there. These people were so disconnected because of something simple as, again, what was Muawiyah instituting? Well, yes, there was the very literal cursing of Imam Ali that was happening on every Jummah khutbah, right? It was an order by Muawiyah, something that continued on for many generations, unfortunately, where any Jum'ah Khatib, any individual who would come and give their khutbah and their sermon, as part of that initial Arabic sermon, they would have to, unfortunately, na'udhu billah, curse Imam Ali. This was a practice. This was a normal part of the khutbah, the beginning part of the khutbah. But see, it wasn't just that as well too. There was other practices. One thing, in addition to the actual practice or institution of cursing Imam Ali, was Muawiyah made sure that any fada'il of Imam Ali had to be banned. Now the fada'il came in two different ways. Either it came in the riwayat, right? Because we know still to this day there are riwayat, not just in our books, but obviously in the books of the Ahlul Sunnah too. There's plenty of that. But of course many of them have unfortunately been removed. But at the time of Muawiyah, nobody was allowed to talk about this. It was banned. You could not mention the fada'il of Imam Ali. And it wasn't just in the riwa'i or hadith form, it was even in poetry. If poets were caught speaking about the fada'il of Ali, they would be caught, they'd be in prison, they'd be tortured, they'd be killed. So there was no way a person could explain. I mean, these people were cut off from the history of Imam Ali, right? They weren't living around that time, so they didn't understand this. So other Muslims, those who had jumped to the Islamic Empire a little bit later, they didn't understand this. They didn't live the life of, around the initial Sahaba, like Imam Ali and his companions. So all they knew was what other Muslims were talking about, or rather not talking about. So if they're living in a time where there's no poetry in the fada'il of Ali, there's no riwayat praising Imam Ali, and every time, every khutbah, they're just hearing a curse on Imam Ali, obviously in the minds of the Muslims, there's no fada'il left. There's like, who is this guy? And that's why you can imagine when people are like, he was killed in sujood, like how's that possible? Because they'd never heard anything positive, only negative things about him. Now, as I said, this practice started with Muawiyah, he instituted it, but this continued on, generation after generation after generation. The Umayyads just continued this. This was their practice because of their hatred for the Ahlul Bayt, obviously. This went all the way up until the time of Imam al-Baqir alayhi salatu wasalam. Salawat Allah Muhammad wa Muhammad. It wasn't Imam Baqir, however, who was the one who stopped it. Right? He was in no position to come and stop something like that. Right? This was a governmental order that had been continued. So the only way that this was going to stop is if somebody from the top was going to do it. And this happened, although the Imam lived with, he was during the time of the Umayyads, right? So there's 5 Umayyad Khalifas that he is contemporary with. And all of them, except for one, were the typical Umayyi types, right? Torturous, evil, despots, tyrants, oppressors, everything. But one of them, Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, was relatively a lot better. He had room in his heart for the love of the Ahlul Bayt. And it's because of what he had done. During his time, he had stopped this practice of cursing Imam Ali. It was due to his efforts. So now the question is this: why is it that from the time of Muawiyah up until Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, why is he this kind of out-of-box, out-of-pocket Umayyad? Why is he the one who's stopping this? If amongst his family, if the culture around him is just hatred for Ali, no love for Ali, no fada'il, then where is he getting this from? Where is this coming from? So how did this door or path towards the Ahlul Bayt get opened up? In other words, how was this hatred towards Imam Ali and the Ahlul Bayt closed off for somebody like Umar ibn Abdul Aziz? And there's 2 incidents that took place while he was a child in his life that perhaps is what actually opened the pathway up for him, and therefore then led to the Muslims now being able to accept the love of the Ahlul Bayt in their hearts. And this was primarily due to his teacher, Ubaidullah. Right? So let me go through that first story, if you can recite a salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So once again bring your attention to this idea of the culture at the time when somebody like Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, he's a kid. The environment is still anti-Ahlul Bayt, right? Anti-Alawi. Nobody has love for the Ahlul Bayt generally. Even post-Karbala, right? There might be a handful, but the normal nature, the practice, the culture of the Muslims is that, who is this guy Ali? It was so bad that we mentioned that Jumu'ah khutbahs, they were still cursing him. There was no fada'il there. Not among the poets, nothing like that. No riwayat in praise of Imam Ali. But it got so bad that there was, in general, not just among the people who are speaking in a Jumu'ah khutbah, but amongst the people, they were just used to just randomly just cursing Imam Ali. Would just curse him, insult him, use profanity with the name of Imam Ali alongside it. And as the children, these Muslim children, heard their community speaking like that, they did the same thing. So it was a normal practice at that time for kids, just randomly as they're talking or playing, they would just curse Imam Ali. Right? Just like any other type of profanity, they would just use Imam Ali, na'udhu billah, his name like that. That's how bad it was at that time. And this young Umar ibn Abdul Aziz was no different, right? That's what his friends, that's what his peers are doing. So one incident. He's playing with his friends outside, and his teacher, Ubaidullah, happens to be passing by. And he hears his student, right, Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, he hears them, just like all the other kids, casually cursing Imam Ali. But at that point, he doesn't say anything. And he makes his way towards the masjid. Now, the time, so again, this is his teacher, right? Normally, classes at that time took place in the masjid. So now Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, the time for his classes come, so he makes his way towards the masjid as well, right, to go meet his teacher. So as he heads there, he goes and he sees his teacher. When the teacher, Ubaidullah, notices that his student Umar ibn Abdul Aziz has come in, he begins offering some sort of a'mal, salah, something like that, right? Some mustahab prayer. Which was a normal practice, okay, no big deal. Maybe Umar was thinking, okay, my teacher's just offering the special 2 rakat for a masjid or something, whatever it is. So he sat down and he just waited patiently for his teacher. But then, that namaz, the salah, the a'mal didn't stop. The teacher just kept going and going and going and wouldn't stop. And at some point, Umar, this young child was wise enough, like, okay, this is abnormal. I'm supposed to be learning from him right now. He's supposed to be teaching me. And he's just engaged in the masjid. Rather than teaching me, he's just engaged in all this a'mal. He must be upset with me. I must have done something wrong. So he's got this in his mind right away. Now, after a lot of time has passed, now the teacher stops. He finishes whatever mustahab thing he's doing. He turns to him. The teacher, in anger, turns to Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, and he says to him, why did you think that after Allah was radi and pleased and happy with the Ahl Badr and the Bay'atul Ridwan, the people of the Bay'atul Ridwan, why did you think that after Allah was pleased with them, that all of a sudden Allah becomes angry with them and that now you have the right to curse people like that? Now, this context of the people who are Ahl Badr and the people of the Bay'atul Ridwan, he's talking about many individuals, but specifically he's talking about Imam Ali alayhi salam, right? So the context, let me mention, just so you know. So this was around the time of the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, right? Because Badr, obviously, we know. But this Bay'atul Ridwan, maybe some people don't know. I don't want to go through the full history, but at least let me give you the ayah that's related to that. Please recite, Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So this is addressed in, at least in one part, in Surah Al-Fath, Surah 48, ayah number 18. Where over there, Allah says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, لَقَدْ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ إِذْ يُبَايِعُونَكَ تَحْتَ الشَّجَرَةِ. So without a doubt, Allah is radi, right? He's pleased with the mu'mineen when they did bay'ah under the shajara, right? So this happens to, what happened, again, for those who have the general idea of Hudaybiyah, I don't want to give the full history, right? The Muslims had gone there, they wanted to perform some a'mal, whether it was Hajj or Umrah or something. The mushrikeen, the enemies of Islam had stopped them, they had threatened them. There was this, issue that was about to happen. So at that time, Rasulullah hadn't gone himself towards Mecca yet, right? So he was just outside. And there was this possibility of this kind of war happening then too. So they went to this tree around that area of Hudaybiyah. And Rasulullah took a bay'ah. He said, all the Muslims who are with me, all we have is our sword and sheath right now. Are you going to pledge to defend my life or not? And not all, but many of the Muslims who are with him, the first one, of course, is Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib, alayhi salatu wasalam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. So he goes and he gives bay'ah to Rasulullah that, yes, obviously, I will defend your life, right? I'll defend you to the death, of course, right? So over here, this idea is that, there's specific Muslims, because not everybody did this. Some of them, found out to be traitors, working with the enemies in Mecca, things like that. Again, I don't want to go through the full history. You can read on your own, or we'll discuss at some other point. Okay, so this is the other thing that his teacher Ubaidullah is addressing. He said that Allah himself is radi with the people of Badr, which Imam Ali is the foremost there, and the people who did this bay'ah of Ridwan, also known as bay'atul shajara. That Allah is saying that I am pleased with these mu'mineen. So his teacher is asking him, Allah is radi with Ali, who are you now to go and curse him all of a sudden? So Umar ibn Abdul Aziz is confused, right? He's like, I don't understand, I don't know. He has no reply, he has no answer. He says, okay, if you don't know what you're doing, then why are you cursing Ali like this? And immediately he says, okay, I apologize for my actions and I promise I won't do this ever again. Just this one statement, this one action from his teacher, and we had a very close relationship, was enough to start to get him to think differently about his relationship with Ali ibn Abi Talib. This was enough, and then The second incident which happened in his life when he was slightly older, but it was around the same time, this is probably what cemented this increased love for Imam Ali and the rest of the Ahlul Bayt. Let's go on to the second and final incident with another salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So, the seeds now have been planted. He's already, now Umar, as a young child, he's in doubt, right? Like, okay, everybody's cursing Ali, but my teacher, somebody I love and I adore and I respect, is saying that, what do I, I'm going against the Quran. I'm doing something that's disrespectful, it's inappropriate, I shouldn't be doing it. So it's like, okay, he's keeping that in his mind. Now, when he was young, his father, Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, his father was the governor of Medina, right, on behalf of the Umayyad government. Now, after this incident with his teacher, he started to pay more attention to things around him, especially to the way that his father spoke as well, particularly the way that his father would deliver his Jum'ah khutbah. Now, what do we know already from the way that Umayyis would deal with the Jum'ah khutbah? They would curse Imam Ali, right? So his father would do the same thing in Medina. Whenever he would give his Jum'ah khutbah, he would also curse Imam Ali. But this young child, he's like, you know what? I'm noticing my father, when he's delivering this khutbah, he's not really making mistakes. He's very good at what he does. He's an eloquent speaker. But whenever he comes and tries to curse Ali, I see him stumble a little bit. So, again, he's remembering the incident with his teacher. He's like, okay, I wonder why that's happening. I need to ask my father. So he asks him, he says, Abata, you're very eloquent. You're an excellent speaker and an orator. But I noticed that once you get to the part in your khutbah where you start to curse Ali, your tongue starts to stammer and stumble a little bit. Why is that happening? What's the reason for this? And his father was caught off guard. He's like, you were aware of this? You noticed that? He's like, yeah, I noticed it. Now his father realizes that something else happened in his life that made him aware of something like this. Now, why would my son notice something like that? Right? Because this is counter to the culture that's there, right? Nobody would have any issue with somebody cursing Ali or saying something like that. But his father's like, okay, something serious. Like, okay, so you noticed. He said, look, and then he told his son quietly, if these people, all these people sitting around, listening to this khutbah, all the people around the minbar, if they knew the fada'il of Ali that I knew, they would run away from us and run to the children of Ali. And when Umar ibn al-Aziz hears this, that's enough. He says, okay, there's something else that's been going on. There's propaganda that's being spread. I've been fed lies. I've been fed misinformation. And this then cemented this love of Imam Ali and then the rest of the Ahlul Bayt. And then he realized from that point that, okay, now I realize that there's been power plays that have been made. People's egos, their takabbur, their pride has gotten in the way. If I ever get power, I'm going to make sure I change this. And this is now finally, when he does gain power, one of the first things that he does a lot of good things. Again, he wasn't a perfect individual by any account. I'm not saying that he's a great individual, right? Obviously, he sat in a seat, he's a Khalifa and he shouldn't have been there. Khair, right? We all say lesser of all evils, right? Sure. So he did many good things. Over here, what did he do? One of the first orders that he gives once he becomes Khalifa, he says, okay, this cursing of Ali ibn Abi Talib has to stop and it's going to be replaced with an ayah of Quran. Now, which ayah did he replace it with? Let's look at Surah Al-Nahl, Surah 16, ayah 90, after a salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So Allah says there, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Inna Allah ya'muru bil-'adl wal-ihsan wa ita'i dhil qurba wa yanha 'anil fahsha'i wal-munkar wal-baghi ya'adhukum la'allukum tadhakkarun. Right? That without a doubt, Allah orders adl, justice, ihsan, right? This perfect behavior, making things beautiful, giving to relatives, stopping fahsha, right? Indecent things, and munkar, and any sort of oppression. And maybe, perhaps, that we'll get tadhakkur from that and we'll be reminded. To this day, even Shia Khatib, in their second khutbah, they usually recite this ayah as well too, sometimes in their first one, right? This is a normal practice that is there. Now, I'm not saying that this is where we got it from, right? We probably got it from the Ahlul Bayt, not from him. But in general, he made sure to take out this indecent behavior, inappropriate behavior, and replace it with an ayah of the Quran. Now, we got these stories. Again, the general point that we were trying to get across is that from this, once this practice of cursing Imam Ali started, now the poets, all those who were hiding their love for Ali and the Ahlul Bayt in their hearts, those who had memorized the Fada'il in poetry form, in riwayat form, now they said, okay, now the culture's changing, now we can go and do this again. So they would go and recite the Fada'il of Imam Ali openly. They'd go and share the riwayat openly again too. And you see the tides that were originally against the Ahlul Bayt began turning. Now there's a few other things I want to mention in the conclusion about how these doors were actually opened up, and some points that you and I can hopefully practice as well, if you can recite a salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. In order for the Muslims to benefit from Imam al-Baqir, the one who's supposed to open up the gates and open things up for everybody else to learn, well, that love initially needed to be put into the hearts of people. If the culture of hatred towards Ahlul Bayt was still present, then there is no Baqir al-Ulum. There is nobody, Imam Baqir wouldn't have been able to do much there. It's only because, obviously it's through Allah's command, through His permission of course, but it's through some small things like this, which is actually a big thing I'd say, that now the culture shifts. Now, how does Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, as we've gone through, how did he change his mind? Because he has to go against the culture too. It's two individuals in his life that have done this, right? His teacher and his father. When we're thinking about how you and I need to open up the paths of knowledge for our own self, for our family and our community, these are the most two influential people in our lives. Our teachers, and for all of us as children, our fathers. Yes, we talk about the benefits, the high maqam and darajah of mothers. Yes, they have their own maqam and station, no doubt. But if you look at the emphasis that's placed on fathers, especially in terms of proper ta'aleem and ta'allum and tarbiyah and education there, it's the father's responsibility there. The way that we see a teacher and a father, these two important role models, speak to their students, the way a father speaks to their child, especially their son, you see that, we know that this behavior, whatever they see in their teacher, whatever they see in their father, they're going to copy this. And we can blame media, social media, we can blame friends, we can blame TV and shows and music, you can blame all that stuff. But if we're being honest, really being honest, we're not trying to do any sort of self-delusion, then we realize that the teachers that I have allowed to have an influence on my child, well, I've given those teachers permission. I need to make sure, as a parent, especially as a father, that I'm exerting my wilaya, my authority, and making sure that I know which teachers are teaching my children. I know these individuals. I know the system here. I know that they're getting proper Islamic education, for example. Or even the non-Muslims that, if they're teaching, let's say, at a public school or something, they're okay, I need to make sure I know what's going on. Not just that, sorry, parent-teacher conference, I don't have time, I have other things to do. No, parents need to be involved, especially fathers. Right? Need to make sure they understand the type of individuals who are having influences on their children. That's teachers. And fathers too. Fathers think that, look, I go out, I work, I earn, I provide, that's it, my job is done. I come home, I need to relax, that's it. We are these template role models set up for our children. Our actions literally are copied and pasted onto our children, especially for the fathers who are here, especially for sons. That's for daughters and sons, but more importantly for sons, especially if we're trying to, I know a little bit counterculture for us right now, but we do have an idea of gender norms, don't we, right? As fathers, we're trying to raise sons that have masculine traits. So that's why it is recommended by our ulama that sons spend more time with fathers and daughters spend more time with mothers, right? That's generally the idea. I'm sure many of you can think of examples, and we've seen, there's evidence for this too, that when it's the opposite, when sons spend more time with mothers or aunts and women, and daughters spend more time with male figures, you see that there's identity confusion there. And that's what's happening in society right now too. Right? Without going into too many details, I think you can understand where that comes from. We think that simple actions, just providing things in the home is enough. That's it, I'm a good role model, I'm doing what I have to. Everything else, whatever the teachers that are out there, they can take care of everything. My wife's at home, let her handle all the other stuff, that's it. I just provide the resources and I'm done. We misunderstand and we underestimate the amount of effect that we have on our children's life. Let me share with you two riwayat, both coming from Imam Baqir alayhi salatu wassalam. And both of these have to do with the idea of not just our actions, but specifically our speech. Our speech is very, very important in the way that we speak around our children, because they'll copy and paste that too. First hadith, لا يسلم أحد من ذنوب حتى يخزن اللسان. That no person will be salim, will be at peace and protected from dhunub and from sins until they're able to control their tongues. Now, some people think, okay, I don't do the major haram. Yeah, maybe I say some profanity here and there, or maybe I'm a bit insulting or a bit angry, whatever, that's not a big deal. According to the Imam, this is a big deal. That a person themselves, it's a stepping stone or a slippery slope, that these other types of guna and ma'asiyah will get there because a person can't control their tongue. We know that this is the gate to hell, through the lisan, through the zaban, through the tongue. In another hadith, he's reported to have said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَبْغِضُ الْفَاحِشَ الْمُتَفَحِشِ. Allah has bughd, He has hatred towards a fahish person who's mutafahish. Somebody who himself is an inappropriate, indecent individual, and they speak in an indecent, inappropriate way. And this is unfortunate that in our community, sorry to say that this is something that is a serious disease. All different demographics. People just have very, very sharp tongues. The words that people choose because they say, oh, whatever, it's not a big deal, it's part of culture, we're used to saying this as we grew up. Well, how do you think things like this get passed down? Why is it that I can hear, unfortunately, young children using profanity? Again, you can blame outside influences all you want. You can blame TV, social media, music, fine. But you and I, as fathers, we allow that to happen. Or, unfortunately, many of us were using that language in the first place. In the most ridiculous of circumstances, right? Over simple things like sports, right? People start losing their mind. You know, people always want to defend the idea of sports to me, right? Oh, it's there for brotherhood and the community comes together. Well, if you're coming together and you're letting your egos get in the way and half of the conversation you have is filled with certain letter words, well, then maybe there's no brotherhood actually happening there, right? Maybe it's just a clashing of egos that's happening, right? If you can't control yourself on the field, you can't control yourself off the field, right? Now, it can be a good place for us to learn to control ourselves, absolutely. But maybe, and this is something to keep in mind, maybe it's because there's an issue with our testosterone, right? Something else is going on where we can't control ourselves and we have to take it out in the field for some reason. Well, then there's something else that you and I need to figure out. Whether it's therapy or counseling, you know, I have office hours. You guys can come to that if you want. I can help you out, help you learn on some basic tips on how to control our tongues, right? Whatever it is, there's something deep down inside us that we have to let out this rage and this fire and this anger on the field. Or something as foolish as, you know, sports or games. Now, trust me, I'm a competitive person too. Right now, that's one of the reasons why I don't play sports with you guys, because you guys get a little too crazy. So I stick to board games and stuff like that, right? Or video games. That's where it's a bit easier. Although if you've been in some of these video game chats, I think it's probably the most fahish stuff I've ever seen in my life or heard. What I'm trying to say is that as fathers, our speech pattern, the words we use, the style that we speak, when we let our anger get the best of us, which means our ego gets the best of us, that is that's being copied, it's being pasted, and our children are watching us do all this. They're saying that when I get upset, I can scream. When I don't get what I want, I can yell. When I don't get what I need in a situation, it's okay to use inappropriate language. That is not the standard that we want to set, right? So if we want to open the pathway towards good akhlaq, towards knowledge, towards proper tarbiyah and all this other stuff, of course it starts with us, especially as fathers, as the awliya, as those who are guardians of our families. And that one door that needs to be blocked and stopped and controlled is first and foremost our zaban and our tongue. Especially for those of us who love to speak about the fada'il of the Ahlul Bayt. Let's not dirty and pollute our tongues. On one hand, while we're speaking about the fada'il of Ahlul Bayt, let's not pollute it with these indecent and inappropriate words, which would of course upset the Ahlul Bayt as well. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala Ahl Baytihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. Let's move on to our quiz for tonight with another salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. I'm hoping that after the Majlis tonight, that none of the fathers come with their choice select words for me afterwards. Insha'Allah. Okay, good luck to everybody. Bismillah. Who gave Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam his title? Was it Allah? Was it Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam? Was it Jabir ibn Abdullah, rahmatullah alayhi, or Imam Sajjad alayhi salam? Who gave and conferred this title of al-Baqir to the Imam? It was actually Rasulullah who had passed this down to Jabir, who had then lived long enough to mention this to Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam. Hasan. Most of you got that. Number 2. Where was Imam Baqir alayhi salam born? Which city? Was he born in Mecca, Medina, Najaf, or Karbala? Where was the Imam born? That was quick. Yeah, wow, very good. Most of you got that, right? It's in Medina. Hasan. Okay, so after 2 questions, let's see who's in the lead. So Hussein and Ali, very good in first place. Very close behind in second place is Ladda. And in third place, Baqir, although it should be Baqir, it should be an I afterwards technically, it's okay. Baqir al-Ulum in third place, right? Maybe if you change it to an I, maybe you'll get first place, we'll see. All right, number 3. According to the 5th Imam, Iman is expressing beliefs plus what else? Taqwa, amal, meaning action, ma'rifah, deep recognition, or tawakkul and trust. It's a famous hadith where the Imam says, Islam is iqrar, meaning expressing, and Iman is iqrar, meaning expressing and something else. Come on, that was an easy one, yes. Right? It's iqrar and amal, that you believe, you testify, but you act upon, right? What you do, you walk and talk. You do both. All right, last question. What is the unit of electrical capacitance? Is it a farad, a watt, a volt, or an amp? I wonder how many electrical engineers we have. No. I didn't even know this thing existed. I have no idea what a farad is. When I saw the option, like, this is a joke. This is like an Iranian name or something. I didn't think it was an actual unit, but apparently it is. All right? So I guess we have 6 people who did their engineering degrees. Very good. Okay, I think... KQ, it looks like the Kenyan Queen has taken first place once again. Congratulations. Hussein Ali in second place and Ladda in third place. Okay, congratulations to all of you. Looking forward to seeing all of you tomorrow afternoon at the groundbreaking event. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala Ahl Baytihi at-Tayyibin at-Tahirin.
ومحمد وآل محمد صلوات हर एक हाल में शजरा ज़रूर बोलेगा हर एक हाल में शजरा ज़रूर बोलेगा कोई भी बोले न बोले मगर खुदा की कसम कोई भी बोले न बोले मगर खुदा की कसम علی کے بارے میں کعبہ ضرور بولے گا، ہر ایک حال میں شجرہ ضرور بولے گا، کہیں بھی بات جو آئے گی حق کے زہرا کی، کہیں بھی بات جو آئے گی حق کے زہرا کی، علی کا چاہنے والا ضرور بولے گا، ہر ایک حال میں شجرہ ضرور بولے گا۔ افضل السلام محمد وآل محمد۔ خدا اور نبی کا جہاں ذکر ہوگا، خدا اور نبی کا جہاں ذکر ہوگا، وہاں ہم پڑھیں گے قصیدہ علی کا۔ خدا اور نبی کا جہاں ذکر ہوگا، وہاں ہم پڑھیں گے قصیدہ علی کا، قصیدے میں ہوگی ولایت علی کی، جلے گا کلیجہ ادھر مولوی کا، خدا اور نبی کا جہاں ذکر ہوگا، وہاں ہم پڑھیں گے قصیدہ علی کا۔ علی سے مدد مانگنا مولوی جی، یہ بدعت نہیں ہے سنت نبی کی، سوالات کو بھی ضرورت پڑی تو مدد مانگی سب نے نبی کی وصی کی، تو زہرا کے شوہر سے کیوں جل رہا ہے، تو زہرا کے شوہر سے کیوں جل رہا ہے، مزہ کچھ نہ آیا تیری زندگی کا، خدا اور نبی کا جہاں ذکر ہوگا، وہاں ہم پڑھیں گے قصیدہ علی کا۔ علی جیسا مومن، علی جیسا عالم، علی جیسا عادل اگر ہے تو لاؤ، علی جیسا رہبر، علی جیسا زاہد، علی جیسا دنیا میں عابد دکھاؤ، جو بستر پہ سوئے تو خالق یہ کہہ دے، جو بستر پہ سوئے تو خالق یہ کہہ دے، بڑا لطف آیا तेरी बंदगी का खुदा और नबी का जहाँ जिक्र होगा वहाँ हम पढ़ेंगे कसीदा लिखा और मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु
الله. السلام عليك يا نبي الله. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدتي نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر اللحد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك أئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا حجة بن الحسن يا صاحب العصر والزمان سيدي على الأمان على الأمان على الأمان. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك توعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.